All day long you have words coming at you. All these words are just flooding you. For example, I mean, just look at your social media feed. Words, 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 words. Or whether it's email that's coming in, or text messages that are coming in, or maybe you turn the TV on and it's news, or there's commercials. I mean, it's words, words, words. And then you go to work and the same thing, you're getting memos, you're getting emails, your boss is telling you what to do, your coworkers are gossiping, you're just like words, words, words coming at you all the time. And then you go home and the same thing happens, especially if you have like a toddler or kids at home. I remember back when my kids were young, there were so many words coming at me all the time. There would come a point in the day where I would say to them, no more questions. You cannot ask me any more questions because I can't process anymore. No more questions, and don't show me anything else. I mean, I just can't do it any longer. And because all of these words are coming at me all the time. And all these words that are coming at you constantly, they can wear you down. And in many cases, they're opinions. Like the news is propaganda. I mean, let's just be honest. I don't really need to go too far down this road, but it's propaganda. The emails you get, most of them, how many of them are just spam? And I mean, just all this coming at you. And you have to sift through it. There's commercials that tell you have to buy something you didn't know you needed, and now you're like, I think I need that. I mean, it's just all the time. There's no shortage of words. And again, they're designed to cause you to do something, believe something, see something, whatever it may be. But there's also all these words that have the power to change your life. There's all of these words that have the power to shape a culture, to put you on a track of life and life to the fullest. All of these words that I want to talk about here today, and we're going to continue to talk about over the next several videos, has to do with words that are life-changing, words that are culture shifting. And what I find really peculiar about these particular words is that all these words have been sidelined in our culture. We've pushed them to the side. Matter of fact, we have cut them out altogether and said they're not even allowed in certain segments of society. Now, I'm not talking about like politically correct words, like words that are banned that you're not allowed to say anymore or whatever. I'm talking about something far more significant than that. I'm talking about the life-giving words of the Ten Commandments. No, yeah, I'm serious, the Ten Commandments. And what we're going to begin to do in this video and the next several is begin to unpack the Ten Commandments. Not only discover what they are, but even, I'm not sure more important, but equally as important, to look at the why they are. Like, did you ever consider why the Ten Commandments are there? Like, why are they there? What is it that's behind the what? What is it that, well, it shows us God's heart when we begin to discover the why God put these 10 commandments out for people to live by. And so we're going to begin to explore this, and then the following Monday, for those of you that are watching this to attend Monday night, we'll gather and begin to even ask more questions and dig a little bit deeper, because I can't possibly cover everything on a Sunday morning or in a video. So Monday evenings, we call it Digging Deeper. You're more than welcome to join us here live on Monday evenings at 6:30. But aside of all of that, let's get into it. We'll get right to it. Let's look at the 10 Commandments as we explore them in the book of Exodus. This is Exodus chapter 20. We'll be covering verses 1 through 17. So here we go. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of their parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. These are the words that God spoke to Moses. All these words, and they summarize, are the 10 Commandments. And so we're going to begin to, again, unpack them each week. And so today we're going to cover Commandment 1 and 2. So let's just get right into it. Looking back again at verses 2 and 3 of Exodus chapter 20, we'll reread the first commandment. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. Okay, right out of the gate, the what here is really pretty obvious. I mean, most commands are pretty obvious, but God must be first in your life. That's what he's saying. Just like, don't miss that. It is that obvious. Yep, he has to be first. He has to be paramount. He has to be number one. But first, let me point something out to you that God understands about humans that maybe sometimes we don't even understand about ourselves. What I see in the heart of God here is he does not expect his people to abandon him. He expects to be cast aside. You shall not have any other gods before me. Kind of muddying up the waters, adding it to him. I mean, so that's what you start to look at, the why of this commandment. God's not worried again, God's not worried about being cast out. He's just worried about being cast aside. And that's what happens in our own lives. So when we begin to look at that, that's the what. We cannot have any gods before us because nothing's going to make sense until we start there, until God is paramount in our life, the center, the focus, and the utmost. And until that happens, nothing else will make sense. That's the what. But let's get back to the why. Again, looking a little closer at God's heart. Why should we have no other gods before him? Does he have some sort of weird, like, inferiority complex? Like, you have to beef him up? Like, no, God, I didn't really mean it. You're okay. You're still cool. I mean, that's not the case. He's like, oh gosh, I hope they still like me, you know? I mean, that's not what's happening here. God does not have an inferiority complex. And if you're wondering even about the word jealous, we'll cover that on Monday night, but it's not exactly what you think it is. So the first command, as we look closer at it, looking at the why, is to have no other gods before me. And the key word there is before. That's the key word. Now, some translations will say you shall not have any other gods alongside or along with me. And it's essentially the same thing. Don't muddy up the waters. Don't allow something else to rival God's rightful place in your life. I mean, think about it this way. If you say, yeah, I'm a follower of Christ, and you have other rivaling priorities in your heart and in your mind, it's going to complicate your life. There's no doubt about that. When we find ourselves like sitting on the fence between following Jesus and not, or just enough of Jesus to get by, that's what he's talking about here. Don't have any other gods before me. Don't play the game of trying to live in two worlds. Or if you take it even further and go, well, hey, I don't have any other gods. I don't follow Wicca, or I'm not following Allah, or all the gods of the Hindu religion. I'm not doing that. You're right, you probably aren't. But there are other things that we can allow to become God in our life. And some of that we'll talk about in the next commandment. But let me just stay focused here, because I'm getting a little sidetracked, on the why of the first commandment. Is to not have another God before, alongside, competing with. You see, God not only does not want you to divide your loyalties among him and something else, even more so the why is he doesn't want you and me to live in a delusion. When God says, don't have any other gods before me, it's because he doesn't want you and me to live in a delusion. And yes, I did say delusion. Because Jesus said it this way in John chapter 14, verse 6. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. You see, when I think about that, that is telling me that Jesus is the truth. And if he is the truth and he's not paramount in my life, then things are going to get messy. If he is not the unrivaled center in my life, then I am living in some degree of delusion. I'm not seeing the world accurately through the eyes of the one who created this world and is telling me what is good and what is evil and what is clear and what isn't. If I don't see it through that, if he is not the center of my life, then things are going to get murky, and I do live in a delusion. Let me give you a really simple example, one that I think in North American culture and mindset is really easy to get wrapped up into, and that is materialism, where something comes alongside God that comes before him or alongside him. You're like, no, I follow Jesus, but man, my house is the most important thing to me. Or no, I follow Jesus, but my boat is, that's the thing. Or I follow Jesus, but my car is really, really important. And you see where you can go here. It could be jewelry, clothes. It could be almost anything that is physical. And the problem is, those things are not eternal. Those things are not alive. Those things won't last. And so when they rival God as a God in your life, then guess what? That's delusion. Because it's not real. It's not eternal. It's not going to last. The truth is God alive, and that thing, God is alive, and that thing that you're allowing to rival him in your heart and in your mind isn't. And giving it that kind of role in your life is living in delusion. When you believe that money is the answer or your hope or your strength, it's a delusion. When you believe another person is your hope or your strength, your salvation, it's a delusion. It's just another person. They're just as flawed as you and me. I mean, or sometimes what we allow to rival God's rightful place in our own heart is us. Because we think things like, well, I'll just be a good person and then God will have to accept me. Well, that's not what Scripture teaches. That you are saved by faith and by grace through faith alone. And so when I realized that, I can even allow my own good works to become putting aside, rivaling with God. So God does not want you to live in a delusion. That's why the first commandment is, do not have any other gods before me or alongside me. God's rightful place in my life and in your life is as paramount. And when that happens, we live in reality. We live in the truth, the eternal reality, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Second commandment is found in Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 through 6. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Now you may think, that sounds a lot like the first one, doesn't it? I mean, isn't it the same thing? Well, they are kind of tied together, because the first 4 commandments are about us and our relationship with God, and the 5 through 10 are about how we interact with people. So they do kind of build on each other a little bit here. And so that is true for sure. And so as we look at this is a continuation in a manner in which we engage with God. Don't have any other gods before me, and now don't make any gods, like is essentially the commandment. And don't make an image and replace God with the image, with the thing. And do not create a God in your life. Now, if you were to fast forward in the book of Exodus, while God's giving this information to Moses, Aaron's brother, who's down with the people, all of a sudden has like a golden calf come out of the fire. And he's like, I don't know how that happened, right? I mean, it's happening in real time. As God's giving this direction to Moses, they're making a golden calf to worship. Amazing to me. Anyway, the key word here in this second commandment is you shall not make for yourself an idol. The other one was rival, and so that we don't live in a delusion. This one is about making, about creating, about crafting. You shall not make. And you may have, because I can tell you throughout my life, I have made gods. Because when we create a God, we create something within an ideal that we have, that we make. If we make a person our God, it may be a career we make God. It may be a thing that we make God. And the idea behind this commandment is not about reality here. The why we shouldn't do that is because it puts limits on who God is or what we believe God can do. Because if I reduce God to a thing that I've made, then that's his limits in my life. That's all I'll ever see. If I reduce it to a God, a physical God or physical or otherwise, it's limited then to my ability, to my imagination, to what I can accomplish. And the problem with that is I'm not all-knowing, I'm not omnipresent. Again, I'm not omniscient. I can't know all things. I can't be everywhere. But God is, and God can, and God will be. And so whatever I make become my God is going to be insufficient every single time. You see, there's actually 2 whys God doesn't want us to make an idol to replace him. It's because 1, idols are always abusive, always. It's only a matter of time. And the second is It puts limits on what we believe God can do because we're choosing to make our own God, one that isn't omnipresent, one that isn't all-knowing, and one that doesn't have unconditional love when you create it. It's created by your own limits and my own limits. And that's not a very big God. The why is because God doesn't want you to be imprisoned by a false God that cannot come through and cannot address eternity and cannot address salvation in your life, because that idol that you make, whatever it may be, career, thing, whatever, cannot address the salvation issue that you and I have to face. We are sinful, broken people, and only Jesus can save us. The God you make will never, ever be able to do that. In addition to that, the why is, again, God doesn't want us to put limits. And when you think about what the Apostle Paul says about God himself in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, listen carefully. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to the power that is at work within us. Look, I'll make this really simple. Whatever we make cannot do immeasurably more than our own limits. Whatever you made is the pinnacle of your imagination, of your creativity, of your ability, of your strength, of your power. Whatever you make, that's its pinnacle. That's the top. It doesn't get any better than that. And Paul tells us about God that he can do immeasurably more than all I can ask or imagine. You see, the why of the second commandment, don't make an idol, is because you put terrible limits on God and you turn him into a thing of what we think is best, of what we'll build our life on, of what we think is good, when God's like, no, 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 I've got that. And matter of fact, your imagination's too small. Watch what I can do. You see, he doesn't want you or me bound to an abusive, limited idol in our lives. That's the why of the second commandment. So let me just ask you a question. Have you made an idol? Is there something in your life that has come alongside God as far as paramount in your life, or that is now your God, the idol that you've made, and that's the limits? That's it. That's as good as it's ever going to get. But see, God says, no, no, no. I have more for you than you have right now. I can do more in you than you can do on your own. You see, it's in my weakness he is strong, and the same is true in your life and in mine. Sometimes, though, the God that gets in the way is me. So God has more for you than you have right now. And when we allow God to rival him, muddies up the waters. We don't live in reality. And when we make a God, we put terrible, terrible limits on him. But when we discover the amazing truth of trusting in Christ and as paramount in our life, we will see and discover things that we could not possibly do on our own. He brings us hope, forgiveness, salvation, power, strength, hope, and peace. Now that's what's poured into your life over and over again. Even in some of the most darkest times of your life, he still shows up. Your idol can't do that. Idols are always abusive. They're limited. And do not let any God rival God in your life.